unthinkable. Leave your family, leave your home, leave your community. That would be difficult for any one of us to consider doing. But even more so when God asks Abram to leave everything that was familiar to him and to begin walking. It wasn't a case of God saying to Abram, Abram, I want you and your wife to go on a journey for 10 miles, and you'll be gone for a month. He didn't say that. He said, leave the family, leave everything that's familiar to you, and I want you to begin a journey. God was about to teach Abram about himself. God wanted to reveal to Abram that there was only one God. At that time, most of the people, believed that there were numerous gods. A god of this village, but if I travel over here is another god over there. So by speaking to Abram as he's journeying, God is teaching Abram, there's only one of me. I am the only God. So Abram becomes the father of the belief of one God, monotheism. Abram is the father of faith. Abram is being blessed by God because Abram decides God is trustworthy. So he does exactly what God asks him to do. And God blesses him, and through him, countless others. All of us, we are sons and daughters of Abram, the first one to believe there's only one God. God wanted to bless Abram, and through him, to bless us. We are grateful this morning for the gift of faith that God gave to Abram and the ways in which God was revealing himself to Abram. So God was blessing Abram by helping Abram to change, to grow, to become holier, even more pleasing to God. And that's what God wants to do with us. As God formed Abram in that journey, God wants to form us so that we can become holier, more pleasing in God's eyes. But what sometimes happens is we take our focus off of God. The focus then becomes onto others. And that's the problem that's seen in today's gospel. Jesus is mindful of people looking at others in a critical way, spotting someone's faults, and then letting everyone else know about those faults. Being judgmental, being critical. What Jesus is trying to teach us is that we need to focus on ourselves, our own faults. Try to become even more pleasing, the best version of ourselves. That's our responsibility, as well as our responsibility to help others. But it's not our job, it's not our responsibility to be the judge of others. Why don't we allow God to be the judge? Why don't we mind our own business? We've got enough work to do in taking care of our own faults and limitations. As Jesus tells us, let's remove that plank from our own eyes so that we can then help our brothers and sisters to see more clearly. These two readings are beautifully joined together. As God helped Abram to change, to grow, to become holier, God wants to do the same for us. And we can do that by keeping the focus on where it needs to be, on our own self, becoming holier, more pleasing. And then we can be of greater service to others. As we think about this tendency to judge others, I think it stems from a problem that we have inside us, in insecurity. For a moment, we feel a little bit better when we see someone else and we can assess them and think of ourselves as, well, I don't do that. Jesus is telling us that that's not the way to real joy. The real joy is to be like Abram, walking with God, listening to God, desiring only to please God. As we begin our day this morning, let us step back from what we're about to do. Let's recognize whatever it is in ourselves that needs some work. Let's set aside some time, maybe later in the day. Try to figure out, what can I do about this? One of the best things we can do about it is to bring it to God, to acknowledge that, yes, Lord, that is my tendency. I do tend to judge. I do tend to be critical. Help me with this, Lord. I know that the Lord wants to help us. The Lord wants us, as he did with Abram, he wants us to grow. He wants us to change. Abram was abundantly blessed. God told Abram that he was going to be the father of a whole nation. The problem is, when he told him that, Abram and Sarai didn't have any children. So God was calling Abram and Sarai, trust me, and I will bless you. I think it's an important message for us this morning. Trust the Lord, and he will bless you. He will bless me.